Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Hey, Connected Life peeps. Today on this show, we got a banger of a show for you.
Oh.
Before we get started, you may want to put some earmuffs on the kiddos.
Aww.
Because we're going to talk about something called sex.
Sex. That's what that spells.
No. You can't say it. I spelled it so the kids don't know. But now you said it. You ruined it.
That.
You did.
Mm-hmm.
You did. The kids are...
Get those muffles on right away.
Yeah. Muffle them.
Is that what they're called?
Muffer them.
Ear muffles?
Earmuffs. Muff them.
Yeah.
You know, earmuffs were a thing back in the day.
I was trying to figure that out.
Yeah, in the cold.
The round things?
Yeah.
And they like pop
I wonder if they
almost
still
like
got
a
earmuffs
can?
for people. I want a pair of earmuffs.
You do?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. It would keep you probably need a hat to keep your whole, if only your ears are warm, but your head is freezing. I don't know that works.
This year I got one of those old school hats where they have the flaps on it and you pull it down.
And
It's
you
bright
look
orange.
So cute.
Look like a goofball and I love it. And I'm like, I have no business wearing that.
Yeah.
And yet I love it.
I think you have business wearing it. You're bald and you're cold. So that in itself is the business.
That's true. I like those flaps. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today we're going to get into the topic of sex.
Yes.
And one of the things that happens with sex is oftentimes it can feel like it fizzles out a little bit inside of a relationship. And the thing is a lot of people have shame when it comes to this area of sex. They're like, I don't know what's wrong with us.
Or they don't know what to do. So it feels hopeless.
Yeah. And so a lot of times it can leave you feeling like, hey, we're the only ones that are having these problems. Everyone else is great. It's
Everyone's
just
else
us.
Figured it out.
I'm alone inside of this. And our hope is to shatter shame, shatter a sense of aloneness, leave people with a better understanding of like, oh, these are potentially reasons why our sex life isn't doing so great. And then like, what can we do about that? And you're going to find yourself on this list somewhere if you've had any bumps in the road in your sex life, which I think we all have. Any of us out there doing the deed. I want to start by saying this. I think that we have a phenomenal sex life.
You think that?
I do.
Oh, that like made me want to tear up.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I think we have a great sex life and we've had bumps in our sex life.
Yeah. And it could probably be better.
Oh, really?
No, that sounded...
Are you saying that about me? What could I do better, Abby?
No, I didn't mean it like that. I actually, but I was just saying like, we could probably listen to this podcast ourselves and find ourselves in different areas that it could grow. That's why I think it's important for every couple to kind of do check-ins in this area and have conversations. We record podcasts like this so that couples can both listen to it and then have a conversation afterwards. And if you're single, we're doing these episodes so that you can actually learn the tools and the conversation and the emotional intelligence to understand what's going on inside of you and your partner when you do get into a relationship.
And if you're single, you're at a bar and you're like, I'm going to have a one night stand. I say stop and say, before we can go home.
Let's listen to this episode.
I really need to know that we're on the same page about what's happening here.
I'm just imagining that they're flirting in the bar. And they're like, let's go sit. You want to go sit in my car with me? Listen to a podcast?
Someone busted out in the car on the drive home to go do it. And they're like, what is this? Anyways, but again, I want this to be a resource for people. I think it's a great resource.
Wait, let's go back to, you think we have a phenomenal sex life.
I will in just a second.
Okay.
And I think that the ability to at least begin to open up a dialogue sometimes is the first step. That's all that was needed.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times just breaking the barrier of like, oh, we have common ground to start examining this conversation around.
Yeah.
And then everything starts easily unfolding. So we hope to make it easier.
Or not easily unfolding, but it starts unfolding in a way that is
it breaks down a major barrier. Okay,
absolutely.
That was keeping you from that.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we have a good sex life. Like, you wanted me to talk into that?
Well, no, you just said it. You said what's the word you used?
Well, I really think we have a great sex life. I really appreciate it. And though it has bumps in the roads, I mean, you're like an animal. A ravenous monster who's hungry for Justin.
That is so funny.
Well, I do want to say that, jokes aside, we have had our bumps in marriage, and we talked about it in another podcast about the idea of we need safety inside of a relationship. And there's been places where you and I haven't felt safe, and it's caused us to probably want way less sex with each other, right? So
and then there were also times when physical sickness has impacted. I had lots of infections that impacted my ability in sex. Yeah. And that was really difficult.
I almost died during a season. So not much of anything wanted to work.
Yeah. And so there's been, and then there's, no one ever told me that stress affects sex. Yeesh. That was never in the TV shows. That was never in the movies. There's never a time when you see a character in the movie and they're like going up, hanging out with their person, and their person's like, I'm just so overwhelmed with life, I can't have sex. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so there's things like that I didn't know were natural parts of life.
Yeah. Well, the way it's portrayed is like, it's time to get it on anytime that it's...
And everybody's ready to go when they're ready. Yeah. Let's just do this.
Throw me on this kitchen counter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the lady's like, I can't. You're too big. Too heavy.
You're imagining the girl throwing the guy on the counter. Yeah. So it is, a lot of the things around sex are important to just be able to learn and understand so that you can normalize and humanize yourself and be like, oh, this is what the process is like. So we're going to talk about a few of the walls that get built.
And I want to add this. I am passionate about having normalized dialogues around sexuality where there's nothing left uncovered in the dialogue. Because for me, I came from a background where the word sex was like very shameful to almost say it, taboo to say it out loud. You say something like masturbation and everyone's like, why was that said out loud? Just things like that. Anything that related, you say the word penis and it was like, oh my God, the word was said. And again, for me, I'm like...
And that's what made the penis game so fun for the 12-year-old boys, because they are screaming the word you're not supposed to say.
Yeah, you really did. But my hope is that our dialogues around sex are so healthy and open and transparent that it becomes a normalized thing for people to engage with this type of material if they aren't already doing it, or if they're already having those conversations, they have new language for what they're doing. So
yeah, I love that. Kind of just breaking open the barriers to talk about it.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to start with, to me, one of the foundational reasons that sex life kind of fizzles out, that I think is kind of like blaring, which is emotional pain inside of the relationship.
Absolutely.
And emotional pain that comes before the relationship. So I've had a lot of clients come into my office and they're like, I don't know, our sex life was good before we were married. Then we got married and then all of a sudden this whole thing died off. And as we start poking around inside their life, we find out a couple things. One, there's a major pain point in one of the partners' past, especially even around sexuality. And all of a sudden they get into the relationship and that pain point, like the solidification of we are married and we are in committed relationship, all of a sudden causes a feeling of like, I'm so vulnerable right now. I feel like I'm in this committed relationship that I can't actually get out of if I want to. So that's kind of like a feeling people have. And then all of a sudden they're like, this reminds me of this pain in the past. And pain starts happening. And all of a sudden these old pains start surfacing.
Yeah, I think exactly what you're saying. People don't really talk about this part of marriage, but we've worked with lots of couples who lived together before marriage and then got married, or there's so many various backgrounds that people come from. But there is something often that happens when people actually get married.
Right. The commitment.
The actual commitment to each other, that we're in this together forever, where they start to feel it does open up a different level of vulnerability. It opens up a different level of attachment. If you've studied attachment, you understand that the closer you get to somebody, the more your deep attachment triggers get impacted. So the more commitment you have, actually the crazier you can become if you have attachment pain from your history. Or the more committed you get, the more walls might come up for you. And it feels so counterintuitive to have, oh, I'm feeling safer in our relationship, so now all of my fears are coming up. Oh, I'm feeling more connected in our relationship, so now all of my past is coming up. Oh, I'm feeling more commitment in our relationship, now I feel more panic. But there is a very real thing that happens when you start to realize I am in this relationship, because you let them in so much deeper. You let them into your heart, you let them into your intimacy, you let them into your world. When you start to believe you could count on someone forever, that is a big vulnerability. And so it brings up a lot of the fears of what if this ends? What if like subconsciously.
Yeah.
And most of us are not even aware that the commitment does that, but it is a very true thing.
Yeah. And like you're saying, in that commitment, with regards to attachment and stuff, you are so connected to someone and become so vulnerable that it's very easy to quickly accumulate pain between each other.
Yes, because things that you would never count as hurting your feelings with other people, because it wouldn't even hurt your feelings.
Right, because your walls aren't down far enough for that pain to even happen. Because you're like, you don't really matter to me that much.
Right.
But now I'm giving you the power to really impact me. And these things that were just subtle and not that big of a deal, all of a sudden have become a major pain point inside of my experience with you. And all of a sudden I'm feeling shut down and unsafe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard thing. It's a hard part of relationships. And it's very beautiful, because you kind of go through this wave where if you connect it and you have that commitment, it'll bring up a lot of your fears. And if you can make it through that process to security, then it's very, very safe. And you can undo a lot of your history's cycles by working through that. But it's hard to do.
And I want to add to this. So as relationships evolve and you go from, hey, this is fresh, we're in this a year, to like, hey, we're 20 years into this thing. When you get to that 20-year mark, you have potentially mountains of pain that have been accumulating inside of your process, especially if you're not good at working things out, sharing authentically of what's going on and going to counseling and all that stuff. And so you have to really understand that there's some people that hit this spot, they're 20 years in and they're just like, there's just not a sex life left anymore for us. I'm like, no, there's just a mountain of pain between the two of you that needs to be unloaded. And that can be done. Like that sex life isn't broken. It's the connection to getting to it may have barriers. And we have to ask, what is this barrier that's between us? And how do we remove that barrier?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that's really true. I think it doesn't even have to be that you have to go through all of the pain that's in between you. Like I've seen this in our relationship. There's still some things that we probably need to work through from different seasons.
We do.
That was painful for both of us. But as we've just become more safe for each other, we haven't worked through every single past history problem, but we've become safe currently. And so I know that we could work through it as it comes up, but it's not that you have to work through every issue you've ever had to be able to get back to a connected place with your partner.
Yeah. And I think that's really good. So some of you might be listening and be like, oh my God, there's so much pain between us. And I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by it. It's like, hey, the first step to dealing with maybe this barrier in your sexual relationship is just being able to be like, hey, I think we have pain between us that we haven't processed well.
Yeah. I was actually going to say that. I think one of the things that has been great in our sex life is we started with a big foundation of communication around it and a lot of honesty and a lot of vulnerability. And you really led us in having conversations using I statements around sex. So there wasn't any blame. There wasn't name calling or frustration towards each other. It was like, we're just going to be honest. So even when we were in the season where we both had a lot of pain in our marriage, we were able to narrate that. Like, I remember being able to come to you and be like, here are the triggers I'm having around sex and wanting to have sex. Here's why it's feeling harder for me. Here's the deeper pain that's going on inside of me. This is what's happening in my world. And you were able to hear that and not be defensive.
Yeah. Well,
and go ahead.
Well, my identity is not in my sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the really big barriers that people have inside of being able to have authentic and honest, vulnerable conversations around their difficulties in sex is that they've identified with that sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that is especially prevalent with masculinity.
Yes.
So we as men oftentimes say, okay, I have to be really great at sex. And if I'm not, that makes me less of a man.
Yes.
And I've had a lot of guys come in feeling so much shame, being like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm not a man because like she's not happy with me sexually. And I'm like, well, the problem is that you're finding your identity inside of your sexuality.
Yeah, your masculinity is literally connected to your performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that is so detrimental to these conversations. So the first thing is like, you talked about how the two of us, you could have an open dialogue. I could have an open dialogue with you. And that was actually very healthy for us. But that's because our identity hasn't been in sex. Like, if there's a problem in it, in our sexuality, I never think, man, I'm failing her as a man. I'm like, well, I guess there's something we need to work on inside of this. That's
really good. And I think it's a mindset of, there's this belief that people believe I'm good or I'm bad. And instead of like, I'm learning and growing and can gain skills. So oftentimes I hear men that are like, I'm good at sex or I'm bad at sex because there's something broken with me. And instead of being like, actually, lots of people just need to learn skills.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you can actually, like, I'm not good at cooking, but that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. And I can actually learn skills to become a better cook.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing in life that we can't learn and grow and become better at if we take the time to gain skills.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is a big one for masculinity. I agree. There is such a deep identity struggle. If I'm not great at sex, I'm not worthy as a man. That lie shuts down the ability to have the conversations that would make you great in that area.
Yeah. And, you know, when we talk about, performance, because you brought up the word performance. Performance will cause you to not be curious about what needs to grow inside of something. So performance says, I have to have this all figured out. And early on inside of our relationship, it was one of those things where we both agreed that we didn't have all the answers to sexuality.
Yeah.
And that sex was an explorative experience for both of us to discover something about ourselves and something about each other. And so every time we had sex, there was a lot of questions involved, both about our hearts, our emotions, and about the actual practical experience that was happening. And so for us, there's been an open dialogue inside of the bedroom about our bodies and about our emotions.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been this experience that we're having sex isn't just for us to have an orgasm.
Yeah.
Like, we're not looking to like just hit the finish line. It is truly the entire process of experiencing intimacy, closeness with each other. That's what it's really all about. So for us early on, it was like, oh, but if we have a good heart-connected experience and neither of us has an orgasm, but we got honest and something came out, then this was a fantastic exchange.
Yeah. So your view of what success was for sex was closeness. So like, did we spend time together? Did we get closer to connection? And that created a lot of success for us.
Right.
Because that was something we could always win it. We could always win it feeling some level of we are connecting. And that's something that has really helped throughout the years. So my hormones have changed. I am 40 now.
Oh, lady.
And my hormones have I've had lots of issues throughout my life. And so there's sometimes that my hormones are like, whoa, yeah. And then there's sometimes that they're like, that's the sound of very, very slowly trying to get my hormones to wake up.
Does that mean like your sexuality? Is that what that was?
Yeah. Like sometimes it's like, whoa, I'm ready. My sexuality is alive and ready. And sometimes it's like my sexuality is like creaking, like a door creaking, trying to get it open.
I get that. It's like, it was like that for me with my test. When it was really low, I was like,
I don't ever remember that. But yeah, the point, and I would say that's true for you too. There's been hormone fluctuations where there's been times you wanted sex way more, and then times when you wanted sex way less.
When my test was super low, just in my body practically.
There's practical, and I think this is why being able to have dialogues around sex is so important, because then we can actually be having conversations. What's going on if our sex life is changing or it's different in this season? Is it free enough that we can talk about so that you can say like, oh yeah, my testosterone's a little off, or I'm going to go get that tested because this does feel different.
Yeah.
And same with me, to be able to meet us there. That ability to talk through the differences made it so that it felt really safe. When there were times when it was like, oh, this sex feels really different, because my hormones dramatically impact my experience of sex. So when my hormones are a little off, if I'm determining how great the sex is based on how fast or how intense or whatever, then that could fluctuate up and down. If I'm determining it on our connection and my ability to know that I'm safe with you, my ability to know you're going to be as slow as I need to go, you're going to wait for me, you're going to be as engaged with me on the process no matter what, because the closeness is what matters to you, not the end result. That creates so much safety for me to be able to be wherever I'm at in my body and know it's going to be a good experience.
Yeah.
Guess what we just did?
What did we just do, Abby?
We created the connection cure. And I think this is the thing that I'm most excited that we've ever created for people, because it is all of the years of courses that we've made, making it available in one monthly healing membership where you get to be connected to people who are going on the same journey as you, while getting access to all of the things that we have made: relationship glue, reclaiming you, the compassion project,
the Father series, Living Fully Alive, the regulation library.
Yes, we have so many things that we've created over the years. We've had over 10,000 people do our courses. We've met with over 4,000 individual clients. And now we have brought all of it together so that you could have access to all of it for less than one counseling session a month.
Yep. And what's really cool is that monthly we have live connection calls where people get together and have those connection moments, talk about what they're going through, how they're healing in their process. And that's been one of the number one things that people have said is so incredible about doing our courses, is the community that they create and the healing that takes place inside of that community. I mean, we've had people find their spouses,
find their best friends, find their community, because finally there's people where they realize I'm not alone and I'm allowed to be loved right now in the messiness of my life, before everything is fixed, before everything is perfect. You can belong before you have transformed. You can be loved before you're fixed in this community. And it is really rich and beautiful and healing. We're meant to heal with each other. And the whole point of why we made this is so that people could have a holistic healing pathway. We do so much with connecting to your body and actually learning how to move with your body through emotions so that things don't get buried alive in your body. The body keeps the score. We want to zero that score out. And then we have heart connection stuff where you're actually feeling empathy for yourself and others, where you're actually connecting to your own story and you're actually having time to not just learn logically about why you do what you do, but actually have new feelings towards yourself. And then we have all of the logic, the neuroscience, all of the reasons why your body and your brain do what they do, so you can actually understand yourself for the first time and start to have kindness towards why your body is made to react the way it is, so that you can heal. It's body, heart, and mind all together in a way that is really, really beautiful.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a really cool membership because You get to stay as long as you want or as short as you want inside of it. You're not trapped inside of it, but you have access to an incredible community and great information. And so that is coming soon. You can go to Justin and Abby, that's abi.com, and you can get on our mailing list there, and we'll let you be the first to know when we release that. But this is something we've been planning for a while now, and I'm glad we're getting to do it.
It's about to come out.
And we're on the topic. We went from the conversation of pain being a major issue that creates separation, and we jumped into this dialogue about communication.
Yes.
And that's something you have to ask yourselves, what does our communication look like when it comes to conversations about the bedroom or conversations that we're having in the bedroom as we're in the midst of it?
Yeah.
And those open dialogues, again, we were willing to pause at the drop of a hat if it felt like something was going on for us internally in the middle of sex that was keeping us from being present.
Absolutely.
Now, a lot of people don't understand whether or not they're even being present. They're just kind of going through the motions. But like a sure sign that I'm being present is that I'm not thinking about a to-do list.
Are you calling me out over there?
Hey, I've been there myself.
Okay.
Or I'm not thinking about some drama issue inside of my life that's like playing in the back of my head.
Or for some of you out there, you're not thinking about someone else or a sexy thing that you saw outside of you. Like part of being present is like, I'm actually with the person
that's right
in
here.
front of me. I'm not imagining something else or someone else. I'm connected to the actual person, and I'm present enough that I am starting to be aware of what's happening in my own body more than just what's happening in my head.
Or the other thing is thinking about football. But the whole point is that my head isn't elsewhere. I am here encountering this person. And if I'm not able to be present, the questions start becoming like, oh, why am I not being present? And how do I communicate that to someone? Like, oh, I can tell. Like there's been times in our sex life where one of us, especially you've been really good at this. Where you're like, I can tell I need a second. I'm not in this moment and I'm trying to get into my body and get present with what's going on here. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that didn't feel like a burden to me. That felt awesome because I was like, oh, okay, that would probably explain why this isn't as great as it usually is.
Yeah.
She's not present.
Well, I want to talk about one of the things that has made our sex life great. And it's along this subject. It is me learning.
My ferocious bod.
Yeah. You ravager. You have been such a safe place for me to learn how to be present inside of my body, inside of our sex lives. And this is probably the biggest issue I see in a lot of marriages is that sometimes it can be both parties, but women especially have a hard time being connected to themselves inside of sex. And a lot of times this starts out when we are young. So when we're in our, teens or whenever you start making out or having sexual relationships with guys, oftentimes your first experiences have some trauma involved, or you feel peer pressure, or you feel like you're supposed to do, there's some kind of pressure or should that you're responding to. This is what I need to do to be liked, or this is what culture says, or this is what this guy wants from me. And so you have all these situations where you learn to just disconnect from your body around sexuality. Or let's say another one is you grow up around purity culture. You learn to disconnect from your body around sexuality because you learn that's really, really bad. So it either can be that you have bad experiences or painful experiences with other people, or you have painful beliefs and you learn to kind of exit your body and not be present in sexuality. And what that does is that it's much harder to have good sex when you're not actually present. I know a lot of women learned how to be sexy because that is what was culturally wanted. They knew how to get a guy by being sexy, but they did it by disconnecting from themselves and putting on a performance. And so women have all of these ways that they've learned to disconnect from themselves, from the truth of what they want, from having a voice about what's going on inside of them. And they learn to be an image for whoever it is. And eventually that disconnection creates a gap in them being able to experience pleasure in sex. That disconnection creates a gap in them being able to be connected to their partner. Because if I'm performing for you sexually, you're never actually getting the connection to me. And if I'm performing for you, I'm also disconnected from myself. And that makes sex less enjoyable for me, and it makes sex less enjoyable for you. And so I see this happen all the time where women have to go on a journey of learning to stop abandoning their body, stop jumping out of their body, actually listen to what they want and what they need, and start to give themselves a voice for what's going on internally. When you do that, you start to reintegrate into yourself. And then sex gets so much better. And your partner, you love sex so much more when I'm present.
Oh, completely.
It's a completely different scenario. And it is so much more fulfilling for both of us. And so you've done a great job at being safe. And when I say that, it's like safety is I can say whatever I need to say in order for me to get present. And that's not like, you're the worst, stop doing that. It's more like, hey, I'm having a hard time. There's a variety of ways that this looks in our marriage. I might say, hey, I'm really struggling with being present. I'm having a hard time getting into my body. You don't take that as a personal reflection. You know that all of us have our 4F responses. We all go into fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. It's easy for us to get into dysregulated states. And one of the dysregulated states a lot of us get into is flight, where we're like busy, 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 always doing something else, always somewhere else in our head. Phones and scrollings teach us how to always be a little bit disconnected from what's going on. And so you don't take it personally when I'm like, hey, I'm having a hard time being present. You actually are very kind and receptive to that. And you are fine stopping and slowing down and being like, what do you need to get present? What's going on inside of you? How can we connect over this? And sometimes it has been you praying for me. I'll ask you, can you pray that I can get present? Can you pray that my hormones will work? Can you pray that I can let go of the things I'm OCD thinking about? So sometimes it's that. Sometimes we slow down. Sometimes we've had to stop having sex and have a conversation because there's actually something going on inside of me that I can't get past. But the ability for me to say, something's going on, and have you respond with kindness has made it so that I've learned I don't have to abandon myself to make you happy.
Yeah. And I want to make a note on this. So for guys, this is something that you can do inside of the relationship. Like I realized from early on in our relationship, I'm really steering this ship. Mm-hmm. Like I am, like not controlling it, but I'm steering it in the sense of the way that I manage myself. Mm-hmm. Like you can be, as men, we can take the back seat and just be reactive, mm-hmm. or we can be responsive to situations. And responsive is a proactive posture that we take that says, I care about this sex life, mm-hmm. and I'm going to be deliberate about how I affect it. Mm-hmm. I'm not just going to like hope it works out. Mm-hmm. And then so for me, I sat and said, okay, if I'm taking responsibility in a healthy way, mm-hmm. not control, but responsibility, what do I want to model? How do I want to foster this relationship so that we both have the best experience possible?
Yeah.
And as I did that, I sat internally and was like, I know that's what's going to be necessary is a healthy place of communication. That means that I have to be gentle and patient and kind and mm-hmm. curious. That means that when I realize that there's something going on inside of her, instead of forcing an end result on this situation, like I just want to get to the end mm-hmm. and get self-seeking pleasure. Mm-hmm. It was, no, the true pleasure is in this journey with her. Mm-hmm. And it's in helping her to flourish in the way that she communicates herself and in the way that she experiences the whole thing altogether.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. I knew that it was very short-sighted if I tried to run over the bumps in the road that we were having, mm-hmm. because I was looking at the idea that this is not a sexual moment. This is a sex life.
Yes.
Right? This is not a sex moment. This is a sex life. And a sex moment, we can rush through that because we don't have another 100,000 moments after it, because it's not a life, it's a moment. But if it's a sex life, then that means that you're looking at the bigger picture of how am I impacting this? And my impact happens from moment to moment, how I choose to show up and how I choose to process this. So for me, I was like, excuse me. So for me, I was like, I have to be very deliberate in what I communicate, how I communicate, and how I pursue her. Like, how am I going about pursuing this?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the idea of you're looking at what is the end result I want.
Correct.
I want a sex life where we're flourishing. And so when you're thinking, we're going to have sex 100 times in the next however long. And so then you're like, okay, so if 10 of those times we stop in the middle and we have to talk through something, or we work through something, or Abby has to do something to get more present in her body, or we have to take more time. But that starts to create a pattern where it feels safe enough for her to be present so that for 90 other times it goes well. You're looking at that as like that payoff looks like a great reward.
Right.
And so I'm comfortable going on the process of being present so that I can create a long-term, mutually beneficial relationship.
Because the reality is, if I'm not doing it well and not leading well and protecting well, what I'll do is I'll take the potential for 100 experiences and turn it into the potential for 20 experiences. And I start limiting the encounters altogether. Again, that's having long-term thinking versus short-sighted thinking inside of the process. And you can look at it as I'm just being, it's a healthy way to be selfish. Like,
totally.
I want the best sex life I can have.
Yes.
So if it's only just about me, I'm going to make it about her.
Yes, exactly.
But to me, it wasn't just a selfish thing. It was like, I want both of us as individuals to come alive inside of this space and to have this space be a place that feels like some of the best expression of our marriage.
Yeah. And so a lot of women actually have to learn to say no, or I like this, or I don't like this. Like, to get back into our bodies, they have to be able to say. One thing I very much appreciated, and we're going to talk about the other side of this coin, is you were always okay with me saying no.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't want to have sex with you if you don't want to be having sex.
Right. And let me say this about that. It'd be easy to be like, well, if the woman says no, of course you should be okay with it. No. It's like, it's more than that. It's like, if I could tell that within her, there was like reservations, not just like, I don't want to have sex with you, but there was like a wall inside of her.
Yep.
I'm like, I have no blowback internally of like, oh, this isn't fair. This isn't okay. Why is this happening? It's not just, I minded the way that I communicated externally. My insides were like, oh, absolutely. I'm totally okay with you having reservations wherever you're at. Anyways.
Yeah. And there was never punishment from you or guilt or manipulation. And I think that creates a lot of pain. I've worked with a lot of couples, and I get it, because if you are like, one of the reasons that our sex life has worked well is because we both believed that sex was something that was valuable for us and our relationship. It wasn't just, this is something we do to please one person or the other. We were like, this is something that keeps our connection strong. This is something that keeps our hearts open towards each other. This is something that reminds us why we love each other. This is something that keeps our walls down. This is an important part of our relationship. And we both came into our marriage with the belief that it mattered for both of us. And I'll say I struggled in that area because I grew up believing sex was for the man. And I believed that like I just had to do that in order to appease him and keep him so that he wouldn't cheat. Like, there's all these beliefs that we can have that can be very painful. And we'll talk about those in another episode. But when we have beliefs that are causing us pain, it can create walls and division. And so it's easy for a lot of people to not have the same core value around why sex is beneficial. We talked through a lot of that. And I had to work it. I had to do some therapy. I had to work through a lot of my pain around masculinity, stories I'd witnessed, things I'd been a part of in my own life, my own body memories. I had a lot to work through. But ultimately, I do believe that sex is this beautiful connection thing. And so because of that, because we mutually believed that it was made for both of us, it was made to give back to both of us. It was made to help both of us feel more secure. It was made to help both of us deal with the stress of life. It was made to help both of us enjoy each other. Because we had a mutual beneficial belief around sex, neither of us guilted the other person, but that's because both of us also were not running from sex.
Yeah.
Even when we had pain or issues come up, both of us had a core value to keep coming back to sex with each other as a gift. So you never felt like I wasn't pursuing you.
Yeah.
Because I valued what I knew sex was meant to do in our relationship. And you valued what sex was meant to do in our relationship. So you pursued it. And so there was this equal buy-in to the concept of the love that sex can create. And so it wasn't like, I now feel like you're not going to meet my needs, so I have to find a way to guilt you into it. And I think that happens in a lot of relationships. There's a lot of reasons why one partner shuts down and the other partner doesn't, but it can feel very powerless to have your partner never want to have sex with you and not have a core value.
Yeah, that's a horrible feeling to have. And you know, you're talking about we both had mutual value for it, right? And you're getting into the belief conversation.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when we're having these disruptions in the relationship, there is beliefs and judgments about sex that either are very clearly on the table or are the subconscious things that are shutting people down. And so I've met with couples where they came from strong religious backgrounds. And so they believed that ultimately sex was a foul thing and it was only for making a child.
Right.
And so then you have a partner that's like, that's bananas.
Right.
I want to have sex with you. And the other one is going like, I just feel pressured and I feel violated and used. And the other partner's being like, it should be okay that I want sex. And the other one's like, no, it shouldn't, because they've hunkered down into a belief system that is actually offended with sexuality, something that is very natural. And it doesn't make them bad for it, but it's something that has to be addressed if there's ever going to be a healthy sexual exchange, that there is broken thinking inside of that, that has to be addressed.
Yeah. And we're going to do a full episode on beliefs around sex, how we get them, and how to go on the journey of transforming them. Because this was something that took me years to transform my beliefs around sex. Without transforming my beliefs around sex, I don't think we would have had a healthy sex life.
I agree with you.
And I spent years working on that.
I agree with you.
Because otherwise it'd be very easy to interpret when you wanted to have sex with me as you wanted to use me
and take
or you wanted to take from me. And then there's lots of people who've had those experiences. I think a common cycle that couples get into is one partner wants to pursue sex and the other person has less of a value for sex or less of a sex drive. And so you start to have this like pursuit and then withdrawal, and then pursuit and then withdrawal. And when one person feels like they can't get their needs met, they feel powerless, they start to do weird behavior that they can get manipulative, they can get controlling, they can like get demanding. There's so many different ways that people respond when they're feeling really hurt. And I know I work with a lot of couples. I'm thinking about a couple that I work with now, and the husband actually feels so rejected because his wife is not ever pursuing sex. And that feels really painful to him. He feels really unloved. And I'm doing one-on-one meetings. There's no malice. There's no frustration. He's not trying to control, but he doesn't know what to do because he's said, I feel rejected by this. I feel hurt. and that hasn't changed anything. And so I'm watching this powerlessness where it's like, do I die to this thing? Do I just decide that I am not lovable or worthy because of this? Like, there's a lot of pain and not understanding how to get their needs met. And a lot of people, when their needs aren't getting met like that, and that could be the man or the woman. I know as many women who want sex more than their husbands as men who want sex more than their wives.
That's true. Yeah.
But the point is, a lot of people don't know what to do when I feel powerless, when my partner doesn't have a value the way that I do. How do I handle that? And so much of that powerlessness creates weird ways to try to get that need met. Sometimes even like, oh, I'm just going to disconnect. I'm going to stop caring. I know this one woman who really wanted sex more than her husband, and she felt rejected that he didn't want it as much as her. And so she's just shut off her sexuality. And now he wants sex more than she wants it because she just shut that thing off. And so I think it's worth having compassion, whether you are the person that has wanted it more or the person who's wanted it less, whether you felt like your partner has tried to guilt you or has felt frustrated with you for not having sex, or whether you felt powerless yourself on how do I get this need met. It's important to know this is a need that matters. And your story matters. And there is a way to get healing and to undo the habits and the patterns that you guys have gotten into. And most of us get into cycles in our relationships, and our sex life is no different.
Yeah. Again, talking about the value system and stuff, I think that even right now, as people are listening, like, it would be a really good thing to do to sit down and evaluate, what is my value system around sex? And do we have a compatible value system? Mm-hmm. And is there places where there's something that maybe each of us are needing to adopt about the other's value system? That's something that each of us are needing to let go. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, where do we find our balanced place inside of our value system? Why do we have this value system that we have? And you begin to ask those questions.
Well, and one thing that I've had, this is the number one homework I give women in relationships who are having sex issues. Have you spent time figuring out all the things that are good about sex? Mm-hmm. All of the reasons why having a healthy sex life is good for you. Not just why it's good for your partner, but why is it good for you? And like, are you having conversations? Because there's so many times we have conversations complaining or our fears or the ways it's been trapped. And we've been hurt a lot by sexuality. I think most people have more pain in the area of sexuality than most places in their life. And so to be able to heal our worldview, we actually need to hear positive stories. We need to hear why sex can be beneficial. Like, I send them, like, go find 3 women who have great sex lives and ask them what is fulfilling for them. What does it do for you? What is the benefit for you? Because that can start to transform your belief systems in your own life to actually start to think through. And I started thinking through it. Why is sex good for me? And I started realizing, oh, as a woman, I can get lost in my head. I can get locked up here. I can get busy. I can get stuck in flight mode. I can be having to-do lists all the time. And so sex actually forces me to be more present in my body, the same way regulating my nervous system does. Oh, sex is actually a very co-regulating activity. It can actually help me regulate my nervous system. Oh, sex is actually a place where I can feel desired. That's something that can help me with my own self-love. It's not the thing that's meant to feed all of my self-love, but it can make me feel wanted. Oh, sex is an area when I'm really stressed in life and I just want feel good chemicals. Like, we all want to go buy chocolate cake after a hard day. I've actually been like, oh, sex is this natural gift I've been given where I can go experience something good when I'm having a hard day with my partner. And so I had to start looking at all of the things where sex is valuable to me. Oh, sex makes me have to be connected to my body. I actually feel less anxiety when I'm connected to my body. So it's good for me in that way. Oh, sex makes me slow down. Sex makes me remember to prioritize that my connection with you is really important, and my connection with me is really important. There's all of these ways that sex was meant to be a gift to me. But if you are struggling in your sex life, it probably means you have beliefs that don't include some of those positive ones. And I'm never saying run over and say, well, it's only good. Obviously, we all have pain in those areas too, but it's important to start to grow your vision for why you'd even want a good sex life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. One of the most shocking pain points that I've heard from men regarding sex and sexuality is that oftentimes they have felt that women weaponize sex to control them. And I've had guys come into my office and say, she wanted to have a ton of sex before we got married. And then once we got married, she was done with it because she had finally gotten me. Mm-hmm. She had hooked me and she knew what to use. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because, I mean, this is a tumultuous conversation on both sides of the aisle where women will often talk about like, I just felt like all he wanted was sex from me. Mm-hmm. And on the flip side of that coin, I have so many men being like, oh, they just wanted to utilize my desire for sex so that they could land me, get what they wanted from me. And then here I am in this marriage, and I'm very confused as to where all the sex went inside of it. Oh, yeah. And how she's so angry about it and doesn't want anything to do with it, mm-hmm. especially after she was the one that pushed so hard for it outside of the relationship, mm-hmm. consistently wanting sex, and then just doesn't want it at all.
This isn't just a pain thing I hear from men. I hear this story from women because I've worked with a lot of women in growing in their sexuality and healing and transforming. And a lot of women will actually say that. They'll say, I pursued, I wanted it. I was to get him because I wanted to feel safe. And then I don't think they are consciously manipulating. I think they get into marriage and their body locks up. I think they can no longer push through. All of a sudden their fears and their disconnection shows up. I think for a lot of women, the block that they have, they weren't even aware was going to happen. Because I know a lot of women that feel sad that that's happened and that that's part of their story. They actually feel shame. They're like, I did pursue. And a lot of times it's because women were taught to dissociate from their bodies. So they learned to do sex for men. And if you are having sex for men and not for yourself, then it will be something where there's pain, and that pain will build up until all of a sudden it becomes something that your body's like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing this for somebody else. I'm not doing this just to make somebody else happy. And the wall that you can hit inside of yourself for women can feel really painful as well.
Yeah, that's so good. Something that we made mentioned inside of this as we've been talking is fears. Mm-hmm. And there's so many fears that are driving our sex life, and those fears can continually grow inside of our lives. And I think that one of the things that's really necessary is to ask the question, what am I afraid of? Like if our sex life is having problems, what am I afraid of? Is it about solely some fear I have around the sex itself? Or is it some fear I have around the relational connection going into the sex? But what is that? Because it's not until we can get honest with ourselves that we have those fears and then share them with other people that we're going to overcome them. Otherwise, the fear is always going to be a silent killer in the background of the relationship, driving us to just run from something that was actually meant to be ran to.
And what's an example of like you being honest with a fear?
Well, I mean, I used the example just a second ago of men ultimately being like, I feel like I could be controlled. Like for me, that has been one of my fears that I had myself in the past is like, well, if I let my guard down, women, I mean, this was well before you were with me, is I'm scared that women are going to utilize their sexuality to apprehend control over me and then have this power over the top of me. And I don't want to be dominated. So I'm scared that this area is going to be something that leads to me being dominated.
Yeah. I love that you bring that up. And as we were able to share our fears, we were also able to understand each other's patterns. So like there were areas that you were not fully letting me in sexuality. There were areas that you had your guards up because you did not want me to use sexuality against you. And I was able to have tenderness and compassion on understanding that more than like frustration and anger. Why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. And I think we need to normalize that everyone brings beliefs into relationships from their past, from their culture, from pain. So like you brought that in. I never was using sexuality against you.
No. Mm-hmm.
And you had that belief that then we've had to wrestle through in our marriage. I've brought in beliefs from my history about men's sexuality that we've had to wrestle through. Mm-hmm. And so the acceptance of to be sexually intimate with someone means that you are willing to talk through and work through what they bring to the table with their sexual past experiences and beliefs. Like if you want to have a healthy sex life, you need to be willing to understand your partner's history and understand their fears and their vulnerabilities and why they do the things they do, why they protect in the ways that they protect, what their deepest fears are, and not villainize or use that against them, but be kind and compassionate. Like a healthy sex life means it's a holistic sex life where you're getting to understand everything about how someone operates, not just this is just about this amount of time that we do this for.
Yeah. And again, you bring up a really good point. It's what did my sexual experiences or lack of, how did they define the way that I'm showing up in this relationship? And how are they defining the way that I'm seeing my partner? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, from the pain in our past relationships or experiences, we all of a sudden color everyone.
We
project that onto them so that we can feel safe and we don't have to go through more painful mm-hmm. experiences. And that's something that's really hard. Once someone has determined that they're using their judgment as a way to protect themselves, once they've determined this is the reality of how things are, it's very hard to get out of that box. Mm-hmm. So if you decide that I'm just like your earlier boyfriends, mm-hmm. that this is what you're using sex mm-hmm. for, or I decide you're like all those women mm-hmm. who tried to like use sexuality to get power over mm-hmm. me, you are put in a box and there's almost no way to prove your way out of it unless I actually just proactively say, I'm going to begin to let my guards down and seek wisdom on this situation mm-hmm. and try to give her own fair shot at how she expresses herself in this relationship.
Yeah, I had to do this a lot because I had this belief men just use women for sex. And so that would come up when we were having sex, or sometimes when you would pursue me or something, I would be like, oh, my whole body is like, see, he's just using you for sex. I wanted to project onto you. You'd never done that before. Mm-hmm. We had no pain in our relationship in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So I just had this belief from past experiences and I projected it onto you. Now, the thing that made it so that it didn't create a bad cycle for us is I would ask with curiosity. I'd say, hey, I'm having this fear come up. The fear is that you're just using me right now, or that you just want to take from me. Is that true? And you were the best husband that there could be because mm-hmm. you didn't take that personally. Mm-hmm. You understood that there was a belief I was wrestling through. You let me ask, and then you would share your heart with me. Oh my gosh, no, I love you. These are the feelings I'm having towards you. Beyond this is why I actually want to be close to you. I'd be fine if we want to walk away from sex and not have it at all today. I'd be fine with that. I love you and I want connection. You were able to share your heart with me, so I could bring up my fear. You'd share your heart with me. I could bring up my fear. You'd share your heart with me. And that ability to communicate through that meant that I didn't have to project on you. You didn't have to get stuck feeling like I was fighting against someone else, but against you. And it really meant so that we could come together in this area.
It's true. It's true. Well, I don't know how much more room we have for this conversation. I think we should
kind of wrap it up. For some of you, we have a lot more to go into, but we'll probably do a series around this stuff because we have several things that we want to do, and we want to give you guys the space to begin to notice yourself, begin to notice what's going on inside, and have hope. I have worked with so many couples and I've seen them turn their sex life around dramatically. I've seen so many people's sex lives heal. I know so many couples after they start getting honest with themselves and working through the pain, have better sex than they had their entire relationship. I've watched repeatedly people that make it a priority to grow in this area. I've seen them actually transform.
Yeah.
And I've seen, like, any area, if you want to learn how to get good at conflict and you spend a few years diving in how to do that, you'll become great at conflict. If you want to have a great sex life and you spend time and intention engaging, how do I grow and heal in this area? It will happen.
Yeah. And with that said, I know that there are some of you, we touched on the whole idea that, we had physical difficulties just in our bodies, just through life, exhaustions and stuff like that. And some of you are like, man, I've done all the right things and I'm just wore out and exhausted and I need to take care of myself. Like, you're not bad. You're not failing. Like, there are ebbs and flows to relationships. There are seasons where it's like, this just isn't the easiest thing to do. And that's okay. Give yourself grace over it. Like, examine these things through the lens of grace and mercy and kindness and gentleness. That's the best way to go about it, because that's what breaks the shame cycle that keeps us oftentimes even disconnected from ourselves and others and keeps us in messy sex cycles.
Messy sex cycles.
Messy sex cycles.
Yeah, I keep going.
I was going to say that, like, allowing yourself to get out of that relationship with shame is going to make this thing so much easier to begin to tackle.
Yeah.
So.
I think one thing that I want to end on the same note of the compassion, which is, I don't know anyone who doesn't have some weird beliefs around sexuality or painful memories or body experiences, and our bodies they bring up memories when they bring up memories. It's complicated. So they often shut us down right when we want to have sex. That's complicated. There is so many things inside of your relationship, inside of your history, inside your connection that can create roadblocks. So I think if we can just humanize, this is a very human issue. This is something everyone's sex life can grow and get better. You're not the one couple that's struggling. You're not the one person that doesn't like sex and everybody else in the world likes it. You're not the only person that wants more sex. Like, a lot of the things that we feel around this, we need to know that there's a lot of people out there experiencing the same things, and to have compassion that this is one of the most vulnerable parts of us as humans. So it makes sense we'd have the most pain and fear around it. And so to give yourself grace for taking time and patience and gentleness to go on the healing process. And for those of you that's felt frustrated for years, I just want to say, don't give up, because there are so many tools that can bring health and restoration and reconciliation.
Yeah, it's so good. So for those out there listening, you can find us anywhere that podcasts are available, but we're over on YouTube, and you can find us through Justin and Abby. That's abi.com/theconnectedlife, and it'll take you right to our YouTube page, and you can subscribe and hit the bell button there.
That helps us.
And if you share these episodes, when you're impacted by these episodes and you share them, other people get impacted as well, and they get the help that's needed. And
also it's just fun having your whole friend group talk about sex so that everybody can be on the journey.
Yeah. And it's our hope that collectively the stuff that we put out, it's not just concepts, but it's actually powerful conversations that actually can help transform people's lives. And it's a free resource that's helpful in those ways. So we want that for people. Share it. And I think I'm done.
Okay.
Are you done?
It's time for lunch.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
I might snack on you. Gross. That's such a gross face. That's so gross.
I guess there's no snacking on Justin today. Bye now.
Bye.